Although a royalty rate of 13 to 16% of wholesale is common in the major label world and sub-labels and production companies that deal with major labels, there are other smaller independent labels that might offer a different royalty rate, a different way to compute the royalties. Some of the smaller labels might be willing to sign you to only a 1 or 2 album deal, and they might be willing to pay you a 50% profit sharing arrangement. So what does that mean? Well, the independent label will pay for the cost of production, manufacturing, distribution, marketing, and they'll take all of those costs, and after all of those costs are recouped from the money that comes in, they will split the profits 50-50. Now that's a very, very interesting arrangement. Once again, all labels don't do that. Some smaller independent labels might do that, but I really wonder if they're kind of basing that off another provision in a major label agreement that we're going to talk about right now that's very important. We talked about the royalty rate for sales of recordings, but in most labeled agreements, when the sound recordings are used in other types of situations, where the record company licenses the recordings for other uses, the record companies usually split whatever they make 50-50 with the artist. Those are called third-party uses. Let me give you an example of third-party uses. Synchronization licenses. We talked about that a little earlier. When sound recordings are used in commercials, in TV shows, in the background scene of a movie, those are third-party uses, and usually record companies charge a pretty sizable fee for that use based on how long the song is used in the movie, what the context of the use is, what the budget of the movie production is. But those fees can range from $5,000, possibly even up to $1 million per use. It's a very, very valuable source of revenue for record companies. And let's talk about some other third-party licenses. You might have bought a greeting card recently that when you opened it up, it had a recording that played. I know I bought one for my granddaughter a couple of years ago. It was the Rick James, one of the Rick James songs, a Party All the Time or something. It was her birthday, and you open it up, and it was the recording of Rick James playing. Those musical cards became very popular. That's a third-party license. The record companies license those recordings to American Greetings and the Hallmark card companies so that they can insert them in the cards, so that they can play in the cards. It became a very valuable source of revenue for record companies 3 or 4 years ago. Another third-party use of recordings are licensing the recordings to one record company to put together a compilation like the Now series of albums that have become so popular over the past 15 or 20 years. And those are CDs pretty much that have all of the hit recordings over the past year or so. And those are recordings from various labels. One label licenses those recordings from all of the other labels and put it on one CD and sell it. Those albums really became top sellers over the past 5 to 10 years. However, as digital downloads and iTunes has become very popular, people can basically put together their own playlists. So the popularity of that has diminished a little. But that's typical of a third-party use. Those record companies agreed to a royalty split for licensing those recordings to that particular company. And the record company and the artist split those royalties 50-50. Now, here's a big issue in the music industry that I'm very concerned about, and many other people in the industry are concerned about. Is a digital download a sale of a recording, or is it a third-party license? Is the record company actually selling that product to iTunes when they deliver that file for iTunes to put on their server and then sell? Or are they licensing that recording to iTunes to sell? The difference between licensing and sale is very significant. So what's the difference between a sale and a third-party license? Well, usually in the sales situation, the record company is bearing all the cost of the production, the manufacturing, the distribution, the marketing of that product. And as a result of all of those costs that they invest in, they feel that they should get the majority share of the money that's generated from that. And this is the reason why artists only get paid 13 to 16%. But in a third-party license, the record company usually just licenses the sound recording, delivers the sound recording to whichever company, Hallmark Cards, who makes the cards, who distributes the cards, markets those cards, and bears all of that expense, to that record company that puts together the Now series. That record company makes the albums, distributes the albums, bears all of those costs. All right, so let's look at digital downloads. What does a record company do? With the digital download, the record company basically delivers that sound recordings to Amazon, to iTunes. They put it on their servers. They market it. Now, the record company still does a little marketing, but the record company on a digital download through iTunes or Amazon, they don't manufacture a CD. They don't distribute it. They don't bear the cost of putting it in a warehouse. They don't have all of those costs associated with a sale. So should record companies apply a sale royalty of 13 to 16% for digital downloads? Or should they pay the 50% third-party license? Well, that's been a big dispute over the years. As a matter of fact, Eminem's production company filed a lawsuit on that very point and really had a decision in that case rendered by a judge kind of indicating that the judge felt that a digital download was in fact like a third-party license and not a sale. Unfortunately, that case settled so that there isn't any legal precedent for that at this point. But it did create a situation where at least record companies and artists are having that discussion. Maybe the digital download should be considered a third-party license, and therefore the artist should be entitled to 50% rather than a sale where they would only receive 13 to 16%.